Good morning, children. In our previous video, we have done with part 1 of the lesson, that is A Gift of Chappals, written by Vasanta Surya. Before we go to part 2, let us revise what we have done in part 1. In part 1, we come across a young girl named Mridu, and she lived with her grandparents in Chennai. One day she happens to go to her aunt's house, and her name is Rukumani. So she has 3 children. So those 3 children are Ravi, Meena and Lalli. So those 3 are cousins to Mridu. And she's very much excited to go to her aunt's house. So when she goes there, immediately when the door is opened, Ravi is also very much excited, and all other cousins, they are excited, and they drag her to the backyard. So why do they drag her to the backyard? Yes, you are right. They drag her to the backyard to show the kitten which they have got that very morning. And now Ravi says that he kept the name of that particular kitten as Mahendran, which was not the normal name which is given to cats. And he also cooked up a story saying about this Mahendran that it is the descendant of Mahabalipuram Rishi cat. And after he was just going on telling about this Mahabalipuram Rishi cat and the descendants and all this, meanwhile they hear a sound which comes through the window. And hearing to that sound, this Mahendran gets frightened. And as it was frightened, even they looked through the window and even they wanted to find out from where that sound is coming. And let us see what happens in the next part of the story. Open to your textbook to page number 22. Mridu crept up to the window. Lalli was sitting a little distance away, awkwardly holding her violin and bowstring, her elbows jutting out and her eyes glazed with concentration. So Mridu, she crept up means she came near to the window. And why she came near to the window? To see what is going on inside in that particular room. So Lalli was sitting a little distance away, awkwardly holding her violin. So here Lalli is learning the violin and the music master is also there in that particular room, and she is not holding the violin properly. She was holding in an awkward way. And her elbows were projecting out. So that is, she was not holding it in a proper way. And she was very much interested, and with concentration she wanted to learn the music. In front of her, with most of his back to the window, was the bony figure of the music master. So in front of her, who is there in front of Lalli? It was the music master. So that music master's, how his appearance is, bony figure. So bony figure means very lean he is. He had a mostly bald head with a fringe of oiled black hair falling around his ears and an old-fashioned tuft. So here fringe refers to the border. Okay, so how was his head? It was bald head and with a fringe of oiled black hair falling. So fringe means like a border, he had the hair around the ears. And also an old-fashioned tuft. So tuft refers to the cluster of hair which you can see at the back of his head. Okay. A gold chain gleamed around his leathery neck and a diamond ring glittered on his hand as it glided up and down the stem of the violin. So here, what did this music master was wearing round his neck? It was a golden chain which he was wearing it. And his neck is like it is compared to like a leather, and also to his finger he has a diamond ring. And when he was playing that violin, when he was playing the stem of the violin up and down, his diamond ring was shining. A large foot stuck out from beneath his gold bordered vesty edge, and he was beating time on the floor with a scrawny big toe. So now he wore a dhoti which had a border, and that dhoti was till the ankle, and then his foot, you can see his foot. So when he was playing the notes or when he was playing the music on the violin, he was beating the time of the notes or the rhythm on the floor with his scrawny big toe. Scrawny here refers to the thin big toe. With that thin big toe, he was playing the rhythm to the notes. He played a few notes. Notes here refers to the music. Lally stumbled behind him on her violin, which looked quite helpless and unhappy in her hands. So here, stumbled refers to followed haltingly. So haltingly means when this music master, he was playing the violin. Continuously he was playing. Whereas this Lally was unable to cope up with him and she was taking a break in between. So how did it look when she was taking a break in between? It looked quite helpless and also unhappy in her hands. So she was unable to handle it properly and unable to play the violin well. What a difference! The music master's notes seemed to float up and settle perfectly into the invisible tracks of the melody. It was like the wheels of a train fitting smoothly into the rails and whizzing along, as Ravi said. So Ravi says that he just tells the difference how this music master is playing the violin and Lally is playing the violin. So here the music master, he plays the violin very perfectly, and that is compared to the wheels of the train which go perfectly on the rails. And Mridu stayed at that huge bearing hand, moving effortlessly up the violin stem, making lovely music. Even Mridu also, she observes the music master and very effortlessly he holds the stem of the violin and plays a lovely music. Crack! There was Lally derailing again. So now after the music master's melodious music, then comes the Lally's Lally's violin sound, and that violin sound is like a quack. So that is out of rails. Amma, came a wail from the gate. Amma, oh. So here wail refers to the cry of pain. So some voice is heard from the gate, that is someone cries in moan saying Amma. Ravi sent that beggar away, cried his mother from the back veranda where she was chatting with Tapi. So here Ravi's mother is Rukumani. She is chatting with Tapi and she says to Ravi that you just send that beggar away. He has been coming here every day for the past week and it's time he found another house to beg from. Pati explained to Tapi. So now Pati explains to Tapi saying that for 1 week he has come here. Now he has to go to the another house to beg. He should find another house. Mridu and Meena followed Ravi out. The beggar was already in the garden, making himself quite at home. So now Mridu and Meena also they followed Ravi. So why did Ravi go near the gate? To inform the beggar to go away. And the beggar was already in the garden. So when they were going to send that beggar away, he came inside and he was in the garden. Who was in the garden? Yes, it is the beggar who was in the garden. And what he was doing? He was making himself quite at home. So he wanted to sit there. He had spread his upper cloth under the neem tree and was leaning against its trunk, apparently prepared to take a little snooze while he waited for the arms to appear. So what did this beggar do? He had removed the upper cloth which was there on his shoulder, that he removed it, and he spread that cloth under the neem tree. And he planned to have a short sleep or a short nap. And by the time he may get something to eat. Ants refers to the food. Go away, said Ravi sternly. My party says it's time you found another house to beg from. So now Ravi, in a very harsh voice or a commanding voice, he says to that beggar, go away. Now party says that it's time for you to find another house. The beggar opened his eyes very wide and gazed at each of the children one by one. So the beggar opened his eyes clearly and then very wide and he looked at the children. So who were there? Ravi, Meena and Mridu. He looked at them. The ladies of this house, he said at last in a voice choked with feeling, are very kind souls. Now with a choke in his voice, he says that the ladies who are there in this particular house, they are very kind and generous. I have kept my body and soul together on their generosity for a whole week. So he says that they are very generous, that I was able to keep my body and soul. Body and soul means as they were giving the food to me for this whole week, I was able to be alive. I cannot believe that they would turn me away. He raised his voice. Amma, Amma, oh, said his wail might be, but certainly wasn't feeble. So now he says that I cannot believe that the people or the ladies who are there in this house will send me away. And again he starts saying Amma, Amma. But the voice which was the wail here refers to the cry of pain. So that it was certainly it was not feeble, means it was not weak. That means the food which was kept by them, he was able to have it well and he was okay. It began in a deep, strong rumble somewhere in his withered belly and came booming out of his mouth with its few remaining teeth stained brown with beetle chewing. So the voice which had come out of his mouth, it was strong. Rumble refers to the strong sound. Okay, it came out of his mouth and with its remaining few teeth. Okay, remaining few, whatever the teeth which are left out. Okay, those were stained. Stained refers to some mark was there. So why the teeth were stained? Because he was chewing the beetle leaf. With that they were stained. So he was not weak and the voice has come out loudly and he was telling Amma, Amma and he was calling them to give him some food. Ravi, tell him there's nothing left in the kitchen. Called Rukumani. So here called Rukumani refers to Rukumani. She says to Ravi that you inform the beggar that there is nothing left in the kitchen to give to the beggar. And he's not to come again. Tell him that. She sounded fed up. So now she was fed up. Okay. And she says to Ravi that you tell the beggar not to come again. Ravi did not have to repeat it all to the beggar. What his mother said had been easy for them all to hear. There under the neem tree, the beggar sat up and sighed. So now Ravi needed to repeat whatever his mother said, because all that beggar was able to hear, and he was about to get up. The beggar sat up, so he was leaning to that trunk of that neem tree. So he sat up and he was about to leave. So sighed here refers to he took a deep breath and he was about to leave. I will go, he said wearily. So wearily refers to in a very tired manner. Who is very tired? Yes, it is the beggar who is very tired. And he says that I will go. Only let me have a rest here under this tree. So now he begs, saying that let me have some rest here under this particular neem tree. The sun is so hot. The tar has melted on the road. My feet are already blistered. So now he says that outside it is very hot. So how hot it is? The tar which is there on the road, that is very hot. It's melted. It's melted on the road. So it is very hot. And also he says that my feet are blistered. So what does this blister mean? Bubbles on the skin. He stretched out his feet to show large pink peeling blisters on the soles of his bare feet. So now his feet is bare and he shows that his bare feet, that the blisters are there and those blisters break, and also that is in pink color, and he shows the large pink blisters which are there on his feet. I suppose he doesn't have the money to buy chappals, Mridu whispered to Meena and Ravi. Have you got an old pair in the house somewhere? So now Mridushi observes that this beggar is not having chappals. So that's why his bare feet has been blistered. So she whispered to Meena and Ravi, saying that are there any old pair of slippers to be given to this beggar? I don't know, said Ravi. Mine are too small to fit his feet, or I would have given them to him. And his feet were larger than Mridu's and Meena's. So now Ravi says that I don't know. And he says that I don't know means what he doesn't know, that there are any extra pair of slippers in his house, that he doesn't know about it. And he says that mine are very small. So mine refers to Ravi's. So Ravi's slippers are very small, that will not fit the beggar's feet. And even Mridu's and Meena's slippers are also very small, which cannot fit into the beggar's feet. The beggar was shaking out his upper cloth and tightening his dhoti. He raised his eyes and looked fearfully at the road, gleaming in the afternoon heat. Now the beggar was shaking out his upper cloth. So he had spread the upper cloth which is there on his shoulders under the neem tree, isn't it? So that he removed it. He shook the dust and then he was tightening his dhoti and was about to leave. but he had a fear. So what was the fear which he had? He looked very fearful, or he was very much afraid to go. Why? Because he looked at the road and that was gleaming in the afternoon heat. Gleaming means it was very bright in the afternoon heat. So the tar was melting. He needs something on his feet, Meena said. Her big eyes filled. It's not fair. So now Meena says that he needs something on his feet. So he is not having chappal. So something he needs it. So her big eyes filling. So her big eyes filling is her eyes filled with tears. She felt very pity for that beggar. That beggar is not having the slippers and he has to go out in that hot sun on that road which is tar. Shh, said Ravi. I am thinking about it, blubbering. It's not fair. It's not fair. Isn't going to hell. In 2 minutes he'll be frying his feet on that road. What he needs is a pair of chappals. So, where do we get them? Come, let's search the house. He pushed Mridu and Meena into the house. So here, blubbering refers to weeping. So who is weeping? Yes, it is Ravi. So I'm thinking about it, he says. So about what he is thinking? He is thinking about the pair of chappals. How to get a pair of chappals for this beggar. And also he says that it's not fair. If he goes out, his what he says, he will be frying his feet on the road. So as it is very hot, his feet will be frying. And what this beggar needs, just a pair of chappals. So let us get them. They will go into the house to search for that chappals. Just as she stepped into the veranda, Mridu's eyes fell on the odd looking chappals she had noticed when she arrived. Ravi's. She whispered to him, whose are those? So now, do you remember children when Mridu came to the house, came to Rukumani's house? At that time, when she was leaving her slippers, at that time what happened? She has seen one more pair of slippers. Okay, and she was about to think whose it was. Meantime, who pulled her? It was Ravi who pulled her to the backyard. So at that time she has noticed. So now when they were about to enter the house, she sees that same pair of slippers and she says to Ravi, she whispers to him saying, whose are those? So whose are those slippers which are in front of that house? Ravi turned and glanced at the shabby looking but sturdy old slippers. So shabby refers to ugly. The slippers were looking ugly and full of dust. And sturdy refers to they were strong. Even though they were very dusty, they were strong. He beamed and nodded. They are just the right size, he said, picking them up. So what he did, he beamed. Beamed means he felt very happy and he nodded. Yes, these are the correct size. This will fit that beggar's feet. And he picked up that pair of chappals, and then both Mridu and Meena followed him nervously back into the garden. So three of them, they have taken the chappals and again they went back to the garden. Is this clear, children? Is this part clear to you all? Now we'll see the next part of it in our next video. Thank you.